I am not happy with RWBY right now. This episode, was it this episode that was, like, ultimately terrible or anything? No, technically not. Yeah, it wasn't this episode. This episode didn't, like, suck or anything. It was this arc. So much nothing has happened in the show, and this arc is the finale of a bunch of nothing happening. Alright, let's just talk about the episode. Oh yeah, there are, like, villains in the show, isn't there? We haven't seen any of the villains since Cinder made her deal with Neo, which is really disappointing, because I was hoping we would have something like a continual threat that the RWBY crew had to face while trying to also get to Atlas. Kind of like Azula or Zuko chasing them down in Avatar. Just a constant thing that they had to try to overcome, but no. From what I'm getting from this scene, it's just setting up that Watts and Tyrion are going to Atlas to try to stop the kids. And I'm just sitting here wondering what took them so long. Like, I know Tyrion and Watts specifically couldn't leave because he had to fix his tail, but Salem still had Hazel and Emerald and Mercury at her disposal, so why not send them out to do something? Is she punishing them for failing at Haven? It seems stupid to punish the only members of your henchmen who aren't stuck at home. And, like, yeah, they fucked up, but it's better than just having them sitting around doing nothing. Emerald's even like, why are we just in the dark? Why keep them in the dark? Tell them what your plan is. Does she just not have a plan? Why wait so long to go to Atlas and or Shade Academy to get the relics when you know that Ruby and Osmond are actively trying to stop you? You should not be taking your time with this sort of thing. And, like I said, like, what? Why is Neo back? What was the point of bringing her back? She showed up seemingly just because everyone wanted her to show back up. From what I'm getting from this episode specifically, it's a lot of things that happened because the audience members wanted them to happen. Listening to Emerald and Mercury talk to each other, I feel like it's just setting up that Emerald is going to leave Salem, which we all kind of could have guessed, but I feel like it's just happening because that's a thing that fans have been asking for since, like, Volume 3, because she shows a little bit of remorse. And now, every time you look at my predictions for the next volume, the two things you always see on there is Emerald changed sides to the good guys, and Neo comes back. And maybe they really did plan for Neo to come back and for all this to, like, whatever, but, like, I don't want Emerald to be a good guy. I couldn't forgive her if she was on the good guy side, because she was the biggest reason behind Penny's death, and played a major role behind Pyrrha's death. I don't think I could forgive her, and I would be mad if RWBY forgave her for those sort of things. And on top of villains who's not doing anything, remember Adam? Because I didn't. He's done nothing. Other than Yang and Blake's, like, PTSD flashbacks of him, we haven't seen him at all. Why did we get an entire Adam character trailer short for the beginning of this volume if he's such a not component this volume? RT needs to learn villains can do things before the finale. Emerald and Mercury's conversation's also stupid. It's because Mercury is such a not character, they don't know how to have the two talk to each other. Even living with the dude for at least a year, like at the very least, Cinder had really short hair when she met both of you. She takes at least a year for it to grow to the length that it was during her time at Beacon. And then throughout the events of volumes 4 and 5, you've been living with the dude, and you just now decide to ask, why'd you tag along? It's because the writers needed them to talk about something, but they have nothing to talk about. Despite being together all the time, Mercury and Emerald have absolutely no chemistry. Also, Emerald explaining that Cinder was the only family she ever had seems pretty unnecessary. The audience, and I assume Mercury, could already assume all these sort of things just by looking at their interactions with each other. I am glad Mercury is the one to finally tell her that Cinder really doesn't care about her. Because no one was going to tell. She was not going to find that out on her own, and I do like having her have this realization. Hopefully Emerald can now grow as a character from this point on. Why does Mercury talk about his semblance so obtusely? Why do all characters talk about semblances so obtusely? They always talk about it as if they don't need to explain what it is. Like in the last episode, Maria was like, I use my semblance and my weapons, and that was helped me keep alive. And Ruby had to ask, what is your semblance? Why don't people just explain what their semblance is right off the bat? Also, what does Mercury mean his father stole his semblance with his? That doesn't make any sense. What kind of semblance did his father have? He's dead now, so would that not undo whatever that is? Is this just an excuse for him to not have a semblance up to this point? Sometimes, like, it's so confusing that the writers seemingly don't think about people's semblances until, like, way later. Like, why did we have to wait until volume 4 to find out what Ren's semblance is? Ren has been a major player since the first volume. Episode, like, 4. Why did it take so long to learn his semblance? And then once you do find out what their semblance is, in hindsight, it feels like you start questioning things like, why didn't you use your semblance in previous situations? Like, Ren fighting the King Taijutsu in the forest. Why not use your semblance to hide from the King Taijutsu while it's attacking you? So I wonder if this Mercury semblance thing was something they've always planned about or whatever, or if this is just them retconning previous volumes somehow. I feel like Tyrion's inclusion in this scene is literally just to set up the idea of Emerald leaving more. I really do think Emerald's gonna leave Salem's faction at this point, and I feel like this scene is just set up for that. Because thinking back to the scene after watching it the first time, not a lot really got done. The characters talk about things either we already knew about, or they walk around explaining things we don't understand, like Mercury's semblance, for example.
Her Grace must act swiftly if we are to prevail.
What the fuck? If acting swift is not waiting 4 episodes to get your plan in action. Oh, are you fucking kidding me? So, okay, Pyrrha's statue. I feel like it was supposed to be like, wow, I remember her, she was great, I'm so emotional and, like, tear-jerking, but, like, it just annoys me. Apparently, Sanctum is here in Argus, which, like, no one ever mentioned at any point in time until now. It now makes sense, because I was watching the RWBY episode, and they mentioned that it's supposed to be, a lot of the architecture is very Greek-inspired, and I was like, well, why go with Greek? So it feels like it's Pyrrha supposed to be here. And that's fine and all. I'm okay with that. You think someone would have mentioned it. Like, in the beginning, when they're waiting for the Argus train to show up, and Nora's like, I can't believe we're going to Argus. Why not say, I can't believe we're going to Argus. Pyrrha used to talk about it all the time. And why would Argus erect a gigantic statue of just Pyrrha? Like, it says, in memory of the students who fell in Beacon. And yeah, Pyrrha was, like, a really big star, but that feels like it's in poor taste to all the other people who died at Beacon. Just because she was a special snowflake who went to Sanctum, why does she get a gigantic tower erected for her? Why not, like, a wall with murals and, like, pictures of everybody who died during the fall of Beacon? And Jean notices one kind of probably it's going to be in the middle, and that's Pierre's face right there. With this giant statue setup, it feels so forced and trite. And I wasn't emotional or anything. I was just annoyed at how pandering it is to Jean's character. I understand a death of a character in a show like this is going to have a major role on the characters that they were close to. But I wish Jean would I wish he could get over it without having to have a gigantic Pyrrha statue shoved in his face, and the not Pyrrha mom lady shoving it in his face. That wasn't Pyrrha. Great, you should strive to be more like Pyrrha. Because I feel like he already was. Like, he was training with her videos at night. And I wish Jean can get over Pyrrha, because I want Jean's character to grow from this. I want him to stop being ever since Volume 4 started, Jean has just been this edgy, upset, mopey, over-emotional character. And I feel like if he can get over Pyrrha's death, he can start to actually grow as a character and turn into something that I'm gonna enjoy more. I liked Jean from volumes 1 through 3. He was goofy, he was lighthearted, but he had a big heart. Since Pyrrha's death, it feels like Jean has just been upset, and that's the only emotion he's allowed to be, despite the fact that all the other characters also lost people during the fall of Beacon. They're not nearly as upset as Jean, and this statue doesn't have an emotional impact on me. It just highlights everything wrong with Jean's character right now. During the credits, this woman is just called the red-haired woman, so I assume it's not Pyrrha. I hope Pyrrha can't just magically get resurrected or anything like that. That'd be stupid. and it would undermine death in the show in general. I assume it's her mother, because in the RWBY world, women look just like their daughters, but with slightly different hair. Oh, I feel like this is supposed to be a really emotional and heartfelt moment, but I can't help just think about how contrived it all is. Of course, Jean just happened to find the statue of Pyrrha, and of course it's a giant erected statue of her, despite everyone else who died at Beacon. Of course, Argus just happens to be where Sanctum is, and of course he just happens to find her mother while he's looking at this giant statue of her. It's all awfully convenient. As much as I don't like the contrived nature around this Pyrrha statue, I do really like hearing the remnants of Juniper finally talk to each other about this. It's nice hearing Ren and Nora address Jean's attitude as of late. And it's nice hearing them all talk about how much they miss Pyrrha. And as much as I wish it wasn't under these kind of circumstances, I do really like finally get to seeing these characters address this. I hope not just Jean, but all of Juniper can really grow from this moment. What? Oscar's been here the whole... Alright, so the only plot point we've been given throughout the entire time we've been in Argus was Oscar went missing. And he just went fucking clothes shopping and neglected to tell anybody? Like, that was the one thing we were trying to solve. That was the only obstacle with this whole time in Argus, and it wasn't even an obstacle. This is the reason I dislike this episode so much. The Pyrrha statue feels forced and contrived, but it's not that bad. There's a good message in the middle of it, with Juniper finally getting over their problems. As much as I don't like seeing the villains just dick around, there is a good setup, I believe, for what they're trying to do with Emerald and Mercury. But this moment is so dumb. I can't believe this. It's been a non-conflict this whole time. Arcs have issues to resolve. Nothing has happened. Nothing of worth happened. The characters grew, but for no reason, and I don't get it. Was it Saffron talking to Juniper that made Jean and the others just forgive Oscar, or was it the Pyrrha statue that made them forgive Oscar miraculously? Because they just fucking forgive him for no reason. I don't know why. Yes, it was a good, heartfelt moment with Juniper in front of the Pyrrha statue, but they didn't grow. They didn't talk about this in relation to Oscar at all, so I don't know why they just forgive each other all of a sudden. If they had, ran into Oscar in front of the Pyrrha statue, and then he saw it and realized, that's one of their teammates and she died, then they would have something to talk about, and then they could make a connection from there. People will forgive and regrow as characters because of actions they need to take with each other. At this point, it wasn't even like they were gone for that long. In Volume 1, Blake revealed she was a faunus, and Weiss revealed she was racist, and Blake ran off for 3 days. Weiss says they've been looking for her for 3 days, and then she finally forgives her. That was only after searching for her for that whole time, and Blake, addressing Weiss and apologizing, did they finally forgive each other. Oscar has been missing for an hour, and they just get over it. This whole arc in Argus would have been so much better if they just had a conflict to resolve. Maybe just, keep it the same, I guess, fine. Juniper, goes off and does their whole thing, and Oscar goes missing, but A, have them resolve this with Oscar through verbal communication with each other, not just by magic, and B, let's have a B plot with Team RWBY doing something. I would prefer it if half of this whole being in Argus situation involved Yang, Weiss, Blake, and RWBY trying to babysit Jean's nephew. That would have been a great little conflict for the characters to have to deal with. Isn't a serious situation? No. But it's a thing they need to do to get over, to resolve. That is what is the point of shows, is for there to be a problem or a conflict, and then a resolution to that conflict. There was no conflict or resolution in here. It was just the idea of something happening, and then just the idea of there being forgiveness, but there was no actual problem. They also waited until the very last second to set up this issue of Oscar's missing, and just had it resolved immediately. Why would you... And throughout all of this, there was nothing character-wise that progressed. The only time the characters got to talk to each other and come to new conclusions with each other was Juniper in front of the Pyrrha statue. From the moment they get to Argus to that, there was nothing character-wise that was interesting going on. Aside from maybe Ruby learning about Silver Eyes, but that was more exposition than character-driven. And it culminates in just seemingly Oscar just wanted to go shopping, and that she just wanted a new jacket, didn't tell anyone about it. Like, does Oscar not have a cell phone? I assume he does. Why did you not try calling him? Why did he not answer? I'm befuddled. Why wouldn't you keep someone at the home in case he came back?
Yeah, I thought maybe you guys would appreciate a hot meal after spending all day looking for me, apparently.
How did you think they wouldn't spend all this time looking for you? You vanished without telling anyone. Why do you think they'd just ignore you? Yeah, Juniper was pissed at you, but Ruby has been on your side this whole time.
So, we steal an Atlas airship.
What? What? That is the dumbest idea I've ever heard. Yeah, he said it wasn't great, but I didn't expect it to be that terrible. There's a million better options for you guys to go with. I don't understand why you think stealing an airship is the only thing you're gonna do. And I know that's what they're going to do, because that's what the next episode is titled. And it's so remarkably dumb. Like, they've had dumb ideas before. Ruby and Juniper are notorious for having incredibly dumb ideas, but this really takes the cake. And I feel like the only reason Ruby's even agreeing with Jean is because she's pissed at Crow, and Crow doesn't want to agree with him. Jean could have said, let's just spray paint their base until they get really mad, and then she would have still agreed with him, because that's just the thing Crow didn't want to do. This is so stupid. This is the conclusion we're going with? At least it's guaranteed to be action-packed, but there's like a million smarter things for these characters to do. Okay. Cell phones aren't working long distance. CCT towers aren't doing what they're supposed to do. Fine, I get that. What if, instead of stealing an airship, Weiss writes a letter to her father saying she's trying to get home and Cordo's being a bitch and won't let her pass? Then he can land and she's like, I'm not going with you unless I'm bringing my friends with me. Or Weiss could write a letter to Winter and be like, yo, I'm trying to get home, but Cordo's being a bitch and won't let me pass. I bring in friends, don't tell Dad. I feel like Winter and Jacques have clearance over Cordo in this situation, and would be able to do all that anyway. Or, what about this? Crow writes a letter to Ironwood, who 100% definitely has clearance over Cordo, and he gets them into Atlas. We can, I know writing a letter and waiting for a response isn't exciting, but it's a lot smarter than stealing an airship! No, I'm on Crow's side with this. Why are y'all looking so upset? It was your first idea, you're brainstorming. First ideas aren't always the best ideas. Crow's not telling you guys to just give up and not do anything, he's just saying don't steal an airship.
We've been in bad situations before, and we didn't need an adult to come save us or tell us what to do. And if you think you can keep up with us kids, we'd be happy to have you.
What are you talking about? He's not doing this because he thinks he's better because he's older than you guys. He's doing this because he knows more than you guys. You guys are the idiots thinking you should steal an airship. He's not undermining you guys. He's trying to look out for your safety, and your option is so stupid. Okay, so clearly I have a lot of problems with this episode. And, is it the worst episode in the world? No. And I'm just mad that this whole arc in Argus has been completely pointless. It's been a big old waste of time from here. And I feel like the events, if they wanted to keep it the same, that's fine, I guess, but it could have been 2 episodes. It didn't need to be stretched out into 3. Thinking about what happened after they landed in Argus, it feels like a lot of superfluous talking with each other. And not even, character-driven talking. They've actually dropped a lot of their character things that they were setting up beforehand. It was like talking to Cordo about not getting access, talking to Maria about Silver Eyes. Yeah, those things are important for the plot they're trying to tell, but those conversations take a long time. And it all culminates into this episode and just shows you how much nothing got done. I feel like the biggest problem I have is that they didn't have an issue they had to try to resolve. Because there were constant issues that they were trying to figure out while they were at the Bartleby estate. It's cold, we need to find shelter. We need food. Why is everyone dead? We need to find a way to get out of here. Alright, the tire to the flatbed, like, broke. We got just, like, there were issues. They needed to be resolved, and there was nothing going wrong with them while here in Argus. Not even, like, trivial issues. Like I said, babysitting, going clothes shopping. It's just something for the characters to do other than sitting around. And I feel like this was supposed to be a finale to, like, an emotional Jean-centric arc, but I didn't realize it was all about Jean until this episode, because he was the one who needed to apologize to Oscar, and he did say sorry, but, like, he didn't come to that conclusion. I don't know what made him forgive Oscar, other than maybe something his sister said, or maybe seeing Pyrrha's statue, but it all just seems disconnected from each other. Remember how Blake and Yang were having, like, issues with each other? Like, Yang was upset, and they were both seeing Adam, and Blake was like, I'm gonna protect you, and Yang got mad. Remember that interesting character plot point? Because it's gone. I hope... We only have 4 episodes left, and I hope it gets a lot more entertaining from here on out, and not just action-wise. I don't want you, like, non-stop fighting or anything, but just something for the characters to do in interesting, character-driven conversations with each other. I don't want any more exposition. I just want the characters to be themselves and to interact with each other, and I want something to happen. I want the characters to problem solve, to try to overcome, and these episodes in Argus has just not done that at all. This might be my least favorite episode of Volume 6 so far, and I hope it stays my least favorite, I really do. Volume 6 had a very strong start, but with this arc, it's flopped a lot, and I'm not happy with the direction the show has taken for its middle arc of the volume. I guess we'll have to see what happens next time. If you like this video, then please do me a favor, give it a like, comment, and subscribe. And in the comments below, tell me if you liked this episode. I imagine most people probably did. I feel like I'm probably going to be an outlier when it comes to the emotional moments of this episode. I bet a lot of people really liked seeing the Pyrrha statue, and I'm just a great big old spoil sport. I can't help but notice how contrived the whole situation was. But if you thought it was a really emotional and powerful scene, tell me about it. I want to know. And I guess I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.